this week's edition of the Pete Mezzetti Show. My guests this evening are Valerie and Peter Nye. Guys, welcome. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Fabulous.
Good. And tonight we're going to talk about the local Clinton PTA, but we're actually also going to talk about, during the course of the evening, teachers and the aspect of homework and all that other good stuff. And from Valerie, I guess I understand that there's a movie coming up that we're also going to talk about as well.
Right, there's a film that the PTA is showing on October 18th at 7 o'clock at the Morgan School in Clinton called Beyond Measure, which has a lot to do with how kids are educated today, different ways of how things could be, and sort of stress on the kids as well. And the type of stress that they might be feeling, and just have a conversation in a couple weeks about education today and what we could do differently.
Now, as far as you're both concerned, Valerie, you as a parent, Peter, you as an educator, let's talk about the stress that kids go through on a day-to-day basis, from school life to maybe the aspect of sports.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about.
Well,
so, I think the genesis of this, and the reason that we want so many people to participate in this, is that there's really two things going on. First of all, you have this notion that the American public schools are failing.
Right.
That our kids get the worst test scores on international tests, and teachers unions and they're getting in the way of getting our kids to succeed. You get the waiting for Superman end of it, and then you have this other end, which is these high-performing schools that are pushing their kids to the limit,
right,
making them take as many AP classes as possible, making them do as many activities as possible, and that was the Race to Nowhere. This documentary is the follow-up to that.
And so the Race to Nowhere was done by Vicki Abelies, who was a parent and saw this sort of in her kid, and said that the stress that the students are under is just overwhelming. And the Race to Nowhere, in her words, she says, was really a downer. It was all about kids and how stressed out they were, how late they're staying up. But then when she went around the country showing the Race to Nowhere, what she found was that there were a lot of great things happening in different areas of the country. And so Beyond Measure, which is her follow-up to that, is actually a little bit more optimistic. It's things that we could do, ranging from the most extreme, such as changing the whole school day from a 5-day-a-week to a 4-day-a-week and having no homework, to just small things like, let's just have one vacation of the year where we coordinate an effort and give no homework. So she views Beyond Measure as a little bit more uplifting, and just having a community conversation that doesn't just involve teachers in the administration, but school counselors, pediatricians, the politicians in town, or the state politicians, and parents and students and coaches, involve everybody in what she calls a community conversation.
Now, have both of you seen both movies?
Yes, we've seen both movies, and I read the book. So Beyond Measure is based on a book that's very detailed. So the movie's only about an hour long. So on October 18th, we'll show the movie. It's an hour long, and it's going to be moderated by two people. Marco Falmaghetti is the new assistant superintendent in Clinton, and so he's going to provide a great perspective on what Clinton is doing great, and it will lead to sort of the conversation about where we are going and what we could be doing. And then Mary Jane Engel is also going to be a moderator, and she has a long history in the health field, and was the director of health services in Clinton. So she is very knowledgeable about some of the health-related issues that the science and the data is just proving that all of this work is actually having the opposite effect of what we want. We give them all this work and we give them all this homework because we want to make them smarter. Right. But really, it's leading to an extreme lack of sleep, and then and then when they wake up the next morning, they're not ready to learn. No. So it's actually having the opposite effect of what we think should be doing. So Mary Jane is going to offer the health perspective, and then hopefully about an hour after the movie we'll get tons of input from the audience. As she said, she moderated the Race to Nowhere, and it's such an amazing topic that we couldn't get people to stop talking. So we hope that it's a community conversation, and not just for the Clinton community, but we hope that all surrounding towns can come, watch the movie for an hour, and then start that conversation.
And now, from what we didn't talk about because I didn't do my monologue this evening, is you're also president of the local PTA.
Yes, so the PTA has been very active in Clinton for, I think, about 10 years.
Okay.
And they're very issues oriented. So Clinton is very lucky to have, each school has their own Friends of organization that really does a lot of the fundraising and the events, and that sort of frees up the PTA to be about programming. So, when we talk to people about the PTA, their immediate reaction is, no, I don't have time to do another thing. But what I really want people to know is that our PTA in Clinton is not about having to do work towards anything. It's about communicating. It's about our ClintonPTA.org website has an incredible amount of resources. So we just did a program on Meet the New Superintendent. Mary Ann O'Donnell's the new superintendent in town, and we taped that, and she laid out her vision. And for very busy parents who can't come, we taped it, and now it's on our website, and you can still see an introduction to who she is and what she has planned for the town. And so we have all kinds of other programs all throughout the year about getting kids hooked on reading, parenting the elementary school students. So we just hope that people come to our meetings and get something out of it, and that might prompt them to be a member. But we laugh and say, the PTA is an organization where you can come to every meeting and never be a member, or be a member and never come to any meetings. So, so it's pretty harmless as far as the time. We just want, it stands for, one voice for every child. And as long as last year we got up to 200 members. As long as we have this membership, we have a way to communicate with people, and it's a membership of people who care about the same thing, who care about educating kids in town.
Now, when are your meetings normally?
We have tried to change up our meetings because, to say that our meetings are the second Tuesday of every month, you get people who are, well, every Tuesday we can't do this. So really, if you have to go on our website, or we have a great brochure that says when all of our programming is. So we try to do, this month it's on a Tuesday, next month it's on a Wednesday. We really try to change it up, but we have an incredible board of about 15 people that range from communication to membership. It's a very active board that, programming, they really, they get all the speakers in order that we have throughout the year. And we also meet every month. And again, it just varies. So, but we have them on the schedule, and but it's just nothing routine to try to fit everybody's schedule.
And obviously you're looking for people to join.
Oh, it would be great, yeah. I mean, we have teachers who can be members for, so the Clinton PTA is part of the state PTA, Connecticut, the Connecticut State PTA, which has a $5.50 membership that we pay to the state. And for that, you get a lot of resources when it comes to like position papers, Connecticut politics. You also get discounts off of certain education-related things. And so for teachers and administrators who want to be a member, we only charge them the flat rate that we pay to the state. And then we've also, last year, engaged a lot of students to become members. We can't forget that someone just said to us, the worst thing for a student is to have, parents like in their mid-40s telling them how they feel. So I think it's very important to have students at the table so they could really tell us how they feel. So we had a very successful student membership drive last year that got, I think, about 20 to 25 students as part of the PTA, which was great. And this year we want to try to bring a couple of those on our board, and then we have family memberships. So yeah, and again, a membership is not about doing work; it's just about being part of the voice in the conversation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And do you have something you'd like to add?
No, I didn't know there were discounts. When did we ever use that?
We have there's a family discount
There
too.
is?
Mhm.
There is?
Yep.
We're gonna
So,
have to-
What's
so
that?
individuals are $15, and so again, the $5.50 goes to the state, and then the rest helps us with the programming and the marketing,
Very
and
nice.
bringing some of these great teachers and this film in, and then the family discount. Well, the family membership is $25.
Very nice, very nice.
So maybe we should talk a little more about the film, maybe.
Yeah.
I think I think the film itself that we're trying to promote and get people
Exactly.
engaged in the conversation is this idea of what's a great experience for, or what do we want our schools to provide our kids, and what kind of experience
Right.
do we expect them to have, and then graduate being, insert the mission statement here, right? So what is it that we want out of the schools, and what does a good experience look like? So the film really, piggybacking off the Race to Nowhere,
Right.
is what state is education in, as far as homework, how much time they spend on the practice field, what kinds of classes they're taking, are they overloading their schedules, and then going home, trying to squeeze in dinner, and then doing homework.
So if you think about it too, and a lot of what the book says is we're still educating like we did 20 years ago, but the world doesn't look like it did 20 years ago.
course not.
And so, a lot of the factory jobs are being taken over by robots, and kids need to find their passion. And about, over scheduling, if you think about the students' week, they get 35 hours a week in school.
Right.
And then if you just add 10 hours a day or a week doing the sports, that's already more than a full-time job that any adult does, right? And then they come home and they maybe have a half an hour for dinner, and then now you have probably 6 or 7 teachers that all give their homework. Someone said too, imagine in our job if we had 6 bosses, each giving us something different to do every single night. And we come home from work, and now we have to do those 6 or 7 things every night. It's crazy, and they're up too late, and then the next morning they have to get up. It talks about the teenage brain and where they are in their hormone cycle, that no teenager should have to go to school earlier than 8:30 in the morning. And again, if you think about adults, we don't go to work teachers do, but most adults in jobs don't go to work at 7 o'clock in the morning.
No.
So they're doing more than a full-time job. One of the things that the Beyond Measure movie actually goes to different schools, and one of the things that one of the schools did is say to the students, to the parents, I want you to live 1 week in the students' shoes, and you as parents do the homework that student has to do for 1 week. And they did it, and it's incredible, and it's a learning experience.
Well,
yes.
I'm sure.
So that's something that can be interesting too.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And again, before we go into the break, the movie is when?
So the movie is, we're showing it at the New Morgan School in their beautiful new auditorium on October 18th at 7 o'clock. And yeah, we just built a great high school in Clinton that has actually a lot of the different new ways of teaching that we can talk about too, of, that they built into the school. So
I was going to say, we can talk about that coming back, because we're about to go into a short break.
Great.
And we'll be right back after that break.
Time to wake up. I've got a job to do today.
I've got a job to do today.
Don't forget, you've got a job to do today.
Hey, Mom. I got the job. Thanks.
I've got the job. Welcome aboard.
Have a good first day at work, Mom.
Your donations to Goodwill fund job training programs right in your community.
Feels good to start fresh, right?
Sure does.
And like that, you're a job creator.
And welcome back to this week's edition of the Pete Mezzetti Show. Sitting here with Valerie and Pete and I talking about the local PTA and a movie that's coming up. Guys, welcome back.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, Coach.
This is what we do in our living room. This is the conversation we have.
This is the conversation we have in the living room?
This is what
All
it's
right.
like in our living room. We talk
Excellent.
about documentaries and books about education. So it's great that you're joining us.
I was going to say, and Pete Mezzetti's normally not there, but he could be. So, Coach, most people don't know, not only are you a football coach, but you're also an educator. And what part of that role, as far as the movie goes, does that play in your life? I'm assuming you see both sides of the aspect. One is a football coach and one is an educator.
Yeah, so I do. I teach an AP class,
Yep.
and then I leave school and go onto the athletic field afterwards. And
Yes.
what's funny is when you teach, honors, college prep, or AP level classes, there is still this, pressure to assign homework. Right? That there's this expectation that kids need to work hard, that it's, defining rigor as work as opposed to quality work.
Sure.
That more work isn't necessarily better work.
No,
So we're looking to make better work and yet less work, and then have parents understand that. I think that's a good thing about this film, and getting people part of this conversation is that just because you're taking an AP class doesn't necessarily mean you have to have homework every night.
Right.
You just have to have quality homework, and the best homework is the homework that the kids end up designing themselves.
Right.
That I need to take notes on this. I need to, request a textbook, whether it's handed out or not. I mean, there's just so many different ideas as to what quality homework would be when the kids assign it themselves. So that really tends to be the most successful homework because it's the most meaningful.
Now,
So now I'm supposed to assign all this homework, right? Then I go out into the athletic field, and there's pressure to be successful. You don't want to be embarrassed in front of all the people who are coming to games. You want to make sure that the kids are prepared. So you have to go above and beyond. And then what happens is you tend to, practice tends to run on a little bit because you're not where you're supposed to be. So now it's easy to fall into that rut. To make a commitment, one of the things we do at Morgan is we make a commitment. That we're trying to be off the field by 5:30,
right?
And so that they can get home, showered by 6:15. They're doing that homework,
right?
Just to take a little steam out of the pressure cooker,
yeah.
Of all the other things. But you lose that week. You ask yourself, well, maybe we should be practicing more, because we're trying to cram it all into a short period of time. So this is the pressure that teachers and coaches feel. And what happens is when everyone's in their own little compartment. They're like, well, I'm just going to take all my time, and I'm going to demand the most from the kids because my job is to make them successful at what I've been assigned to do, as opposed to look at the big picture of what the kid goes through the course of the day, which is a grind. It is an absolute. This is where Val left off before the break. We grind them down, period after period, and then we put them on the athletic field, grind them down there, add all kinds of things to their plate as far as studying, and then we send them home and finish it off till 1, 2 in the morning.
And one of the things that is missing out of that is the family time. I mean, there's one example that said, the coach was great, and the coach said, academics comes first. Academics comes first, but then after that, this game and this sport that you're playing right now is above all else, so you do 100% commitment here. And then the parents are standing back going, okay, above all else, like church on Sundays, above all else, like my niece's baptism, and if you can't make that game or if you can't make that practice, then you're going to be benched. I mean, that kind of pressure, like everybody, it's very easy to discount family time and time with the family.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, well, here's what the conversation has to be. We have to educate the population to understand that if a teacher's not assigning homework, it doesn't mean they're not a great teacher.
Right.
They might be the greatest teacher for that reason. But we need teachers who are incredibly self-confident, zero insecurity, to be able to take that risk, especially when they're teaching the higher level classes where there's that general expectation, right? Because everyone wants to talk, they talk, oh, he doesn't assign a lot of work, blah, blah, blah. That takes a lot of courage.
Well, they talk about standardized tests, and a lot of people look to Finland and the teachers, the education system in Finland, where there's no standardized tests, and I don't think the homework is more like Pete alluded to, the student-based homework. It's about having an experience that kids love, and they pay teachers really well, and they hire the best teachers to take a kid, from here to there, not necessarily to say that you have to pass this standardized tests.
Right.
Yeah, the thing about Finland is, and I saw Finish First, which Dan Rather had done, I don't know, a decade ago or more, and they had performed very well on this international test. But I don't know. I've never taught a student who took that test. like you take some of the most high-performing districts in the nation that exist in Connecticut, and some of the lowest-performing districts in the nation. Connecticut is a very interesting place to have this conversation.
It is.
But my kids never took that test.
No.
So when you see what they do in Finland, there's a block of an hour or two in the middle of the day where they get to pursue whatever it is that they love.
Exactly.
And they followed one that happened to be a rock band. But what are they doing? They're playing American written songs, right? They're covering American written songs. So there's a lot to be proud of in America in terms of our creativity, our reverence toward authority, and our ability to come up with creative things in the face of other traditions. It's funny that in education, we struggle with it so much that to make change in education, to get the whole population to say, well, it shouldn't be the way that I was taught, is very hard to overcome, even if you're a progressive educational leader.
Exactly. Now, as far as the education aspect of things goes, Coach, do you give homework?
Yeah, so I mean, I already alluded to this.
Yeah, I know. But
I believe that if there isn't a big project, typically there may be a large project.
Right.
But outside of that, night to night, my goal is student learning.
Got it.
Right, that's the goal. Are they learning this material in preparation for X, Y, and Z, right? Or college, for that matter, whatever we're preparing them for.
Correct.
Obviously, they have to have a positive experience. They have to have an understanding of what the function. In one example of economics is that this study is designed to eliminate poverty and famine, and right. The ultimate outcome of this isn't just about prices and output. This is about really solving global problems.
Okay.
When they embrace that and they say, all right, well, then the learning matters to me.
Right.
If they're not picking it up within the class time that I have 5 hours a week. 5 hours a week to teach these kids a certain amount of material. If they're not getting it there, then they're expected to prepare outside of class, come seek extra help.
Right.
But a lot of times questions are given ahead of time. For instance, they're given a problem set they don't need to do. They can choose to do it or not do it, but questions that are similar would be posed to them later. And this is an AP. This is an AP class.
Gotcha.
So those are different ways of giving them an opportunity to choose whether to do the homework. Look at the homework and just say, oh yeah, I could answer a question like this without doing the whole thing out, writing it down on paper, making sure that it's checked by the parent. There are ways to, for lack of a better term, cut corners, but prove that they're learning the material.
And the book and the movie too is not about not giving any homework. I mean, which is most extreme, but it is about not doing what they call like the drill and kill, which is way back, in the Puritan age of just drill it into their head and memorize it, and then guess what? They forget it all. I mean, colleges are seeing that in kids who aren't graduating in 4 years because they had this pressure to take all the AP classes, so they memorize, and then they get to college and they forget about it. And the whole idea about homework too is there's a great idea in the movie and the book about having it be more of a coordinated effort that, some schools have said, okay, well, we won't give homework over this Thanksgiving break. Well, that's great that, that school said that, but I have 4 kids and they're in 4 different schools, so I still have 3 kids who do have homework. So let's just say, how about every school in the district says, let's give one holiday break that has no homework. Or like I've been trying to, one of the things that the PTA would love to see happen is to have all the constituents in town actually share their calendars. So when, Clinton just hosted the Chris Herron, the Purple Project. If every teacher in town, whether you live in town or you don't live in town, actually knew, which they should have because there were purple flags all over town, that something big was happening that night, then maybe you don't give that test on Friday because, my daughter went to school all day. Then she went to volleyball. Then she volunteered at the Chris Herron Project. And at 9:15 at night, she said, can we hurry up and get home because I have 3 tests and a quiz tomorrow? Well, can't those teachers recognize that there's something big in town that can you have the 3 tests and a quiz on a Monday? And one of the ideas is sort of just have today be a red day so that each teacher knows, and use red days sparingly, but everybody in town knows that tonight something big is going on. And it could be as big as a project like that, or as small as, there's just a big soccer game or a big football game that everybody wants to go to. Or have like a yellow day that says, well, if you have to give homework, then go for it, but really kind of do it sparingly. but most days will be green days and very flexible to people. So that's like the easy things to do about just coordinate your effort about when, so we're not completely stressing these kids out with the 7 classes that they have.
And repetitive homework. But the film really is about meaningful work. And that can happen on the football field too, or any sporting. You know, a lot of times we'll say, you're going to watch every play, and make sure you outline every single formation, all this different stuff. But sometimes it might be better to say to a kid, I challenge you to find something that I haven't found already. Then he goes and looks at the film, and there's more of a depth and a caring about the work that they're doing. So there are different ways to do this, and I think we need to think deeply about what's going to give kids some more intrinsic motivation in the projects that we outline for them.
And from what I understand, we've got a little bit of time left, but I do want to bring it up at this point as well. In the town of Clinton, we have a new high school, which we talked about briefly, but maybe we can talk about that.
Yeah, we have a great new high school which has built in a lot of awesome maker spaces that you could probably talk about better than I can. He was on the building committee,
You're on the committee.
Awesome spaces to do great things in.
Yeah, no, I mean, so there's certain things that the community values, like the auditorium is an absolute, it's a performing arts center, and it's second to none, really. If anyone has an opportunity to just see that, I think they'll be awe-inspired. There's no question it has a resort feel, open resort feel.
The academy model, though.
Yeah, no, and the academy model is kind of a long-term transition. But anyway, we're excited about that too.
Yeah, well, we're about to say goodnight, so before we do, I personally want to thank you guys for coming down. Hopefully we'll have you on again soon.
Thanks for having us, and hopefully everybody can check out October 18th, 7 o'clock.
Hopefully we'll see everybody at the movies. On behalf of Valerie and Pete and I'm Pete Mezzetti. Thanks, good night, and we'll see you next week.